Hello, I'm Steve. A little about myself. I'm a retired law enforcement officer with 20 years of service. I began my career in the jail, worked the road, and became an investigator. During my career, my training consisted of everything from SWAT to becoming a state certified crime scene technician. I've investigated crimes from thefts to homicides. After retiring and becoming aware of true crime and web sleuths, I started my channel for web sleuths to better understand the perspectives of law enforcement. Not only do we cover true crime, I go out into the field and assist families who have lost loved ones to homicide and their cases are considered cold. Join me as we look and bring attention to these critical cases. Uh, of course, in South Carolina, and talking about the recross and some information that came out during the trial. And especially some of this information, there's no greater witness that has taken the stand in this case than currently Alex Murdaugh. One of the three individuals that was at the kennels that day. And so we're going to look real hard at the testimony he said, and that he testified and presented to the jury and what that means. But before we get started with that, I just want to welcome everyone that's new to our channel. Our channel is growing. The subscriptions are rising, and we thank all of y'all for being here tonight. And if you're new to the channel, just remember, respect families, respect each other, and respect the mods. And at the end of the presentation, we'll be answering all your questions. So anyway, Alex Murdaugh, of course, is on trial for the homicide of his son, Paul, and his wife, Maggie. That happened in June 2021.
You got yourself a new member.
Hey, Southern, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Glad. Hope your channel's doing well and hope it's growing, and wish you the best. And but as we look at some of the things that have come up, and it gives me some pause to go back and look at it and align some things and conversations, and that Chris and I from the mob crew, as we discussed it and came up with different possibilities and theories, and hearing the latest testimony from Alex about all the way up to the day before the homicides occurred, about being detoxing while he was at the motel and didn't go to the ball game, which is huge to me as a law enforcement officer, knowing that any individual that's in the middle of detoxing and has an addiction, and how their body is so dependent, and what measures they will take to get to whatever will solve their addiction problem and that drug of choice. And is that going to be the motive? It's quite possibly. And this is, there's people can argue a lot of different motives and things, and the financial. And I was going along with the financial for a long time. But when I heard about that he was in the process of his body reacting and going through the detoxing process, and what that means to an individual that has an addiction, and some of the worst encounters and confrontations I've ever had in my life was involving people that were in the middle of this, because they'll do almost anything to keep from going to jail. And been some absolutely encounters that were, basically that if I was very fortunate that they weren't able to assault me to the point of being able to take my firearm away from me, and possibly even worse. But I've been in a lot of encounters with individuals that were in this day 2 phase or day 3 phase, of where at that point they'll do anything. And if you're the one standing in the way of getting them to their whatever addiction they have, They'll take whatever measure it is to make sure that they have that. And is that possibly what happened that day? From the law enforcement perspective, and if I was handling the investigation and had a part in it, this is how I would have approached Alex once I became aware of all the situations and knew of his dependency and knew that where he was at that point and stage in his life and how severe his addiction was, because it does add a whole new motive to it. And as we get into it, I'll explain to you a little bit more of it. But of course, this is the not to scale diagram that was submitted by the investigators from SLED of the locations of Paul and Maggie down at the kennels. And then, of course, this was testified to, and he says, I got out of there. And I understand that now a little bit better. And I think you will also in just a few minutes, because we're going to be looking at the conversations and that video that Paul made. The video is the one thing that has gotten us to this point that there is a trial. Without that video, I don't believe he would have been charged. And so Paul, by this chance of making that video, has led to this trial. I give full credit to Paul on that. Without that video, I don't think they would have brought charges. But looking at charges or looking at that video now, knowing the conversation that Alex says that Paul and Maggie went to the kennels first. Okay. I now tend to believe that is a truth. And I also believe that he went to the kennels a few minutes later. And I think if we look at the conversation of that Maggie is having with Alex, is that while and pay attention that when you watch the video of Paul again, that Paul is paying attention to the dog. His back is to the Jennifer
Rochelle.
Super
Thank
Sticker
you so much.
199. That Paul's is in there messing with the dog Cash and is doing a video, and he's not paying attention to what's happening behind him. And so Maggie tells Alex, and this is my scenario, that when Alex pulled up in the golf cart, Maggie pointed out to Alex, says, he's got a chicken. And at that point, Paul hears the conversation, and he says, it's not a chicken, it's a guinea. And that supports that he and Maggie had gotten there earlier and had seen the dog with the chicken. And when Alex arrives, she informs him, as most of us would, that, here comes someone else in your family, and you won't believe what we see. One of the dogs has killed another chicken. And of course, alerted Alex of that detail. And Alex, of course, made the comment about Bubba and a little bit on his, downside of it. Then we look at the timeline that, okay, everything was happening almost simultaneously. Just like Paul said. He said, Alex said that, well, Paul and Maggie went to the kennel first, and then I went down a few minutes later. And he gets down there, but he doesn't go down there to help with the chickens or the dogs. He goes down there due to the fact that prior to everyone getting home, I believe he had searched the house. Those many steps of that he had taken prior to their arrival. I think he was looking for his pills and couldn't find them. Thank you.
D.
Hello from Alabama. Good to see you there from Alabama. Not far from you at all. But I think he had searched the house and he couldn't find his pills. And then, of course, they may have had a discussion during dinner. There's only 3 people that would know exactly what they're talking about, and he's one of them. But anyway, after dinner, and they split up. Paul and Maggie have gone to the kennel, and Alex is sitting there, and his addiction, and he knows that he wants his pills, and what will it take to get those pills? and what decisions has to be made that he's going to get those pills, and what measures will he take. And so I think he had decided he's going to the for a confrontation, and there may have already been at least one firearm, because everyone always says that wherever Paul went, he carried a firearm with him a lot of times. Would that have been that 300 blackout? Probably so. Or let's speculate that he had it. Well, what does Alex take?
Thank
Jordan.
you so much, Jordan.
Here's some gas money for your trip. Yes, I'm leaving in the morning. I'll get a little bit more about that in just a few. But anyway, so Alex is going down to the kennels, and there's going to be a confrontation. He wants his pills, and he takes a shotgun. He arrives down there just as soon as he arrives, and Maggie, the video is that Paul made is 8:44 or so, and then Maggie is on the phone, and there may have been Paul and Alex may have been having a conversation after the video was over about whatever. We don't know, but whenever Maggie puts her phone up for that last time at 8:49 and 27, and at 8:49:31 it's locked for the last time. I think that's when all the problem really went downhill, and I think that's at the time that the homicide of Paul occurred, and I think Maggie may have been involved in it. And if you watch the video that I made that Chris put out there about how long does it take, it only takes a few seconds to press a trigger, and then it only takes a few seconds to move to that second firearm that would have been in the vehicle that Paul and Maggie had rode down to the kennels in. And I think he obtained that, and I believe Maggie probably was trying to get her either get to Paul or trying to call 911. And of course, at that time, the homicide of her or the shooting, the assault on her began, and only lasted a few seconds. And
Sandy,
Ms.
my
Martin,
goodness, thank you so much.
Thank you for your super sticker. And I say this for the fact that last text read and the device locks, and we only have that at 8:49:31. And I think that by in that minute, just over a couple 3 minutes, that during those 59 steps, I don't believe many of those steps were Maggie's. I think there may have been a few of those that in that time period was Maggie's, but I think somewhere between 8:53 and 8:55 that the steps for Maggie had ended, and the steps taken by Alex took the phone over. And he was probably checking it in fear that during the assault that she might possibly had dialed 911, which created an issue. And it creates an issue such as, I got out of there, because we have the possibility that we know that Paul was unable because the assault occurred and homicide occurred, and then again, he's no longer a threat. So we move on to threat 2, which would be Maggie, and is she calling? And what do we have to do? And a choice was made, and that choice appears to be that if Alex is the offender, that he committed that second homicide. And then he's fearful about that phone. And what do we have to do with that phone? That if she has dialed 911, we have to get it away from the crime scene, so that if they're tracking it, that they can't come here. And why can't they come here? For the fact that I'm here, the offender, and I have 2 victims here. And so we have to get that phone away. And how can I get it away from there? We now know that Alex says he took a golf cart. And so, and the phone is locked up and found later. And it's part of that 59 steps, because when we see it, there's no more steps involved. So we only have a couple of minutes. And where can he go in a golf cart in a couple of 3 minutes?
Remember.
Tammy, thank you. Appreciate your support. Means a lot to us. And where can he go and how far can he travel on a golf cart? And Chris and I have been talking about it. He's going to be coming out with a video that shows it in great detail, this timeline. And where can he go and how far could he travel in a golf cart moving? And I didn't know some of the golf carts go as fast as they do now. Some of the golf carts go 30, 40 miles an hour. But saying that even if we have a golf cart that only goes 20 miles an hour, that means that it will go a mile in 3 minutes. Where the phone is located from the kennels is just over a half a mile. So the distance of driving a golf cart at, say, 20 miles an hour would only take him a minute and a half to get that phone to this location. Take whatever steps it is to throw it across the road and to dump it. And then after that, he's home free, that he can go back to the house. The phone is separated. If someone by chance does locate me on that phone, it's not going to take them to the kennels. It's not going to take them to the location of where there's 2 homicides. And so now we have to get back and get cleaned up. And what do we know about what happens in the next few minutes? If you look at Alex's data and his phone and the 280 something steps that was rushed in 4 minutes of him running around and trying to get everything, because now we have to create a distance of, once again, we have to separate ourselves, not only from where the kennels are, that 1,100 something feet away, that there's 2 victims of a homicide, but we also have to make sure that we're far away from the crime scene, and we have to start creating an alibi. And part of that alibi, of course, is that there's some orientations changes that between the kennels and the phones and the residents during this transport. And I'm surmising that he's riding this golf cart along this area to where the phone is, and he doesn't have to get on the road. He can ride right in front of the house over to where all the hunting fields are, and be able to go to have access to get rid of that phone. And then still have plenty of time to get down to his house and do those 280 something quick pace steps. And you know, while you're riding in that golf cart, that phone's not going to be changing. You know, it changed orientation a few times, but it's not counting steps. It's sitting still. So a lot of things can be happening to a cell phone if it's not being walked and it's just being driven around in the golf cart. But he gets back to the house and he's in this frenzy, and he has to separate himself from this kennels, this residence, this phone, and he makes a phone call. He starts making phone calls at 9:04 and 9:06. And we have where there's a orientation change that happens at 9:06:12. And that was a big question of how that could happen. And I think we've answered that. And y'all be able to judge that. I don't know if Chris has got the video out yet, but if not, you'll be able to see it tonight or tomorrow. And we did some testing on it, and I can change that phone orientation. And when you see it, and this is just an alternative possibility, but it's something that is quite amazing. And I didn't realize it until I did a lot of testing. And I found out how this can occur, and this is one of many possibilities. But and it's from that phone call and changing that orientation by placing that phone call, and is that exactly what happened due to that setting on the phone of not only ringing but from the vibrations, and did that phone dance, and did it change orientation? And I believe it did. And but we're going to see, because as you see here, this phone laying in the leaves near the sticks and stuff, and you'll see my test. And hopefully, it's an argument that I've, looked at, and Chris and I have worked on extremely hard this week, and Chris is still working hard on it, and he's I'm anxious to see how he put it together and everything, because he has the video of it I sent him of me recreating that phone changing orientation, and but I believe that's what happened, and I look forward to y'all's comments and see if y'all agree or disagree of how this could have happened, because everyone's been questioning that if he's a half a mile away at the house and the phone is, like I said, over here a half a mile away, how could he do that? And like I said, once we ran these tests and I created those recreations and it occurred, I said, okay, that makes sense. But anyway, I think that's about all we have as far as our theory on this tonight. And we'll be answering any questions you have.
Thank you, Cammie. Gifted memberships, I see.
But
Thank
now,
you so much.
but this is the way I will approach Alex on this, of course, is going through this scenario and telling him this is what happened. That you went down there, your addiction drove you to this. You weren't in the proper state of mind. But that would be to get him that tried to get him to admit to it. Until I'd always had doubt and always was thinking that I could never explain how this phone could change orientation. I could never explain it, and without there being a second offender involved. And that was my biggest holdup, that there always had to be two offenders, because we had this while he's at his house calling her, there's an orientation change. And that was the biggest thing, and that told me that there had to be two offenders. With this scenario, it doesn't have to be two offenders. He had time to get the phone there, and by chance when he called, and after a missed call or two, that this orientation changed due to the settings on the phone and being able to make that phone call, and that's how I would approach Alex with it. And would it have made a difference? We'll never know, because this is something that law enforcement didn't look at.
All right, now you ready?
Absolutely.
All right. So let's see here. All right, 822.z. Okay. And so for Scribbles, hi. If he were there 2 minutes before the murders, who did it?
Well, the prosecution says that he did, and so that's why they've charged him, is that there's not enough time for him or any of offender to have come into the window, and their motive originally is the financials, but I think the way that they are looking at it now, there's a possibility they may include not only the financials but his addiction as part of the motive.
Okay. And that one. And DJ AM said no one else was there at the crime scene. What else do we need to know?
That's a good point. Absolutely great point. And like I said, I always wondered how he could have, if it hadn't been for that phone, so being that distance and changing. And I'm not saying that this is the only possibility, but it's a possibility that I've gone through the timelines. Everything adds up, the timing and the distances and the steps needed, and it does allow everything to be covered.
Okay. And Corey, where can I see the video you did of shooting the guns against gelatin?
Go to the mob crew, Monsters Under a Bed, and he has that. Chris and I, we've been working and collaborating together. I've been doing a lot of content and creating a lot of tests and send to him, so I can go back into the field and start more testing and running different trials. It's and not only have we been collaborating on this series of looking at the evidence and certain scenarios that may have occurred regarding the Murdaugh homicides. But we're going to be working together in the near future. We're going to be going to on some other cold cases, and but he's doing the videos and I'm doing the testing, and I do the slideshow presentation part of it, and he does the reanimation of it and the timelines, and so we're just sharing duties. But Mob Crew, Monsters Under Our Bed, you'll be able to find on his.
Okay. And DZ at Steve, what's the name of your 501c3 and when can it start accepting donations?
You can go to the True, go ahead.
You can go to the truecrimeweb.com website. It's on the front page. The name of it is True Crime Web Foundation. There is an online button if you wish to do it online. It is on a secured server, and you will receive a receipt at the time you do it online. If you wish to pay by check, then just notify Steve, email at steve@truecrimeweb.com, and we'll make sure you have instructions on how to get the check to us and whatnot. And thank you so much for asking, because I almost forgot that tonight.
Yeah. The foundation, for those of you that are new to the channel, is foundation for that. As we've created this channel, we didn't know we were going to be going out into the field and working cold cases. And working cold cases and traveling and buying equipment, going out and handling. And as in Texas, we're working a 40-year-old case that's going to be bringing scientists and equipment down there to do searches. That foundation allows us to go out and do these things and be able to pay for travel, rooms, food, equipment. And there's a lot of logistics and a lot of equipment needed in these searches, and we're going to be moving forward, and that's what this foundation is for, is supporting going out and helping the cold cases. And we thank everyone that's helped so far, and appreciate anyone looking at it. To if you wish to, we absolutely would appreciate it.
Absolutely, we do. All right. Because you know what? We can't do this without
No, we
you.
can't do it without you.
I mean, it's impossible. Absolutely.
I wish my skill sets and my finances were to that. My skill sets are fine. My finances don't allow me to absolutely do it on my own, and I can only do it with this community and those who wish to support us.
All right. Let's see here. Okay. And Cell Energy, greetings. By the way, did you notice Paul phone record of the dog in the kennel and the hoses on the ground?
Yes, it's been mentioned several times. I had heard of that, and it was discussed that they were down there, and I believe that Paul and Maggie went down there to do some work, and I believe that Alex went down there to get whatever it took to get his addiction settled so he could get his pills. And I think that's what played a large part in those homicides.
All right. And hold on one second, looking for something here, but don't find it. All right. That's interesting. So I'm going to do 28 and Aries. Okay. I'll have to go look for that. And Legendary CEO, what did you think of the 5.2 shooter?
Well, and I understand exactly, that's what the defense is there to do. They're trying to raise doubt, and they have to get that the shooter is as far away from 6'4" as they can, which is the height of Alex. And 5'2" is pretty much that way. It's about as far away. But there's a lot of things during confrontations that occur. People fall, people trip, people may have their hands on a firearm. Not only the offender, but possibly the victim. There can be struggles. Guns go off, and you may actually be straddling someone on the ground. So that gun can go off in a lot of different directions, and the shell casings can be deflected and fall on the ground near someone, and then they can fall on it, such as the case of might have occurred with Maggie and the shot that went through the bird cage. So the 5.2 shooter means nothing to me because I know that you can shoot firearms from any height during a struggle.
Okay. And Southern Gal True Crime. Any thoughts on where AM could have hidden or disposed of the clothes?
I believe that they were bagged up, and either they were hidden initially during that first travel to the phone, where the phone was taken to separate from the crime scene. Because, like I said, I don't think he was real sure that she didn't hit the panic button or whatever, 911. And I think that those clothes could have been either hidden and the firearms as well at that time, or as he was going to his mother's. That is the other alternative of where those initial location of where the firearms and the clothing went.
Okay. All right. And Legendary with the super sticker.
Appreciate your support.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll be leaving in the morning, heading out to the Midwest, working, checking on a couple of cold cases, and I'll be gone for the next 4 or 5 days, and then I'll be back. But I'm going to try to this time while I travel to do some lives on the road while I'm doing the cold cases.
We'll see.
We'll see.
All right. And from Ann, Mr. Steve, thoughts about Prosecutor Waters' cross of Alex? I've been on a mission contradicting social media criticism. In my opinion, he did a brilliant job at letting Alex self-reveal his lack of integrity.
Oh, yes. I mean, the jury, and the problem is that the emotion, because Alex, and a lot of his emotion that you saw, and in that testimony, I believe there was a lot of truth in what Alex said. I think he did testify, and he was heartbroken about certain things, and he played upon that, and at certain times in his life, I'm sure that relationship with Maggie and with Paul was perfect, but that relationship wasn't perfect at the time that they were standing between him and his addiction. And they're, like I said, you don't stand between anyone with an addiction and a certain phase of that, because they'll do anything to satisfy that. And Waters did quite well, and Alex did more harm than good a time or two, especially when he turned and spoke to the judge and argued with the judge, because he wanted to show power, and he showed power in the courtroom, because I don't think I've ever seen anyone on the witness stand talk to a judge without the judge asking a question, and in that manner. And I think that may play a large part. Do I still think there's a great possibility of a hung jury? Yes. But I think that one moment, and if it is lost, it's going to be lost when Alex turned to that judge and argued with that judge, because that is something that he has to have his way at times. And if it is a conviction on it, that's going to play a large part of it, I think, in my mind.
Okay, and chat is wild tonight, so if I miss anybody, I greatly apologize. If you have something special, feel free to email Steve.
Yes, enjoy yourself in chat. I want y'all to enjoy yourself and speak. And but just be respectful of each other.
They're doing good.
Excellent.
They're doing good.
Excellent.
Doing very good. Otherwise, they'd be hearing from me. All right, Jumpin' Jack Flash. Did anyone hear the shots being fired?
I don't know if any law enforcement or there was any reports of it, and would people even pay attention? I can pretty well tell you my neighbors, they're, my neighbors
We
are not,
sleep through it now.
yeah, my neighbors are not going to be calling in any gunshots. I mean, I could be they could be a team of assassins attacking me, and nobody would ever call 911 about gunfire here. And from what we know about that property, it's pretty much the same. And gunfire is pretty common in the South. And would they have called in anything? I doubt it.
And Rockin' Dockin' super sticker.
Appreciate your support. Means a lot to us. Absolutely.
Thank you so much. All right, so it's 8:34. Did that one. And Mr. Steve, what was your favorite outrageous assertion of Alex's? Mine was, to paraphrase, it's Sled's fault I lied. They asked me the question. Okay, Alex, that makes sense in Alex's world.
Yes. Yeah, it's just that he lives in his own world, his own narcissistic world. And that's as good a, outrageous assertion as you could have. I'd have to think about that. And I may actually
That might
go
be
back.
a good little show.
My top, Alex's top 10 outrageous assertion, sort of like a.
Thank you, Ann.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good thought process.
That is awesome. Oh, and looky here. Miss Mary's back.
Oh, on the road coffee fund. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'll probably spend some of that about 5 o'clock in the morning at one of the local coffee shops.
There you go. All right. You got to remember Ann's now. That would be a good one.
Yes.
All right. Tanya S. Question. As law enforcement, when someone is suspected, what's the line you draw when sympathy for the person that just lost their loved one? And do you think that played a part?
Well, you have, as you saw in this initial moments of law enforcement getting there, how they handled from the first responding officer of getting there and handling it and understanding that currently we only have a complainant, and that being Alex and his son and wife being the victims of homicide. And always in the back of the mind of the officer that this is the person on the scene, and we have to always consider them. We don't have to, you treat them with utmost respect, but you always have it in the back of your mind that at some point we may come back and this will be our offender. And it's just part of the training, and that's what you do. You go back on your training. You try to secure as much evidence as you can, minimize the evidence that will and can and be destroyed, and it happens. Evidence is lost at all crime scenes. There's no doubt, and you just try to minimize those mistakes and treat everybody with respect, because sometimes it does appear that people are guilty when they're absolutely innocent, and there's a lot of times that people try to make themselves appear innocent when they're absolutely guilty, and law enforcement understands that, and you saw it displayed from the initial officer to the initial investigators to the initial SLED, that they all treated him as someone that was a victim as far as losing 2 loved ones.
All right. And Darla,
Thank you
so much.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Right.
We appreciate your support.
We sure do. All right. And hold on one second. Looking for something else. And Darla again. Thank you so much.
Yes. Appreciate that.
Yeah. And if you haven't yet, drop us a like, please. We would greatly appreciate that. All right. And Mary, can Alex be called back to the stand?
I know that they will be having, there's a possibility. I don't know about South Carolina, how they handle that, because they may have rebuttal witnesses, And during those rebuttal witnesses, and how will I don't know if the defense, how many times they get, because the prosecution will have the rebuttal, and I don't know how South Carolina will handle that, but it's possible. It turned out anything is possible in this trial. And I have to give it to Alex. As far as a offender taking the stand, he did a pretty good job of it. He had his moments, but he also had moments that probably, it depends on how that jury weighs it, but he was an excellent witness for both sides.
All right. And Darla is a member.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Appreciate your support.
All right. And WL22 waffle. Perfect.
You left out chunk.
Yeah. Where's the chunk part? That's perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah. You met. That's exactly how I have them, with chunk.
Oh my gosh, that's priceless. That's priceless. That's uh-oh, who is this? Got my phone going off too. All right. Let's see here. And Jill, thank you so much.
It says, I'm behind, but I'll listen to why mess later. I love Creighton's Cross. I hear the jury wasn't impressed with Alex. And that may be very well the case, like I said, but it's just that one that bothers me. Which one could it be, or could it be a multiple? And you never know. But as the trials moved forward, I had many questions, and I was always, if I hadn't come to this conclusion that this was a possibility, I would think that there was someone else more involved that assisted. But this, now I can almost see where, as he totally could have been the sole offender from start to finish, and no one else the wiser.
All right. And DJ.
I believe the catalyst was cumulative. He had just been kicked out of the firm. His grandfather found it. This, along with pending boat law, then the addiction, the cumulative effect was deadly. Absolutely. Well stated. Absolutely. And thank you for your support.
All right. And I'm looking for one more here. And Michelle.
Will prosecution recall tech expert to ask phone behavior if MM phone picked up outside with charge port up, backlight stays off, no log data? I did some research on that, and actually I was sent this information, and my phone will, when I turn it upside down, will, I don't know.
What?
Let's see. See, it's on right now, but when you turn it upside down, it turns off. But when you turn it back up, it comes on. Some phones do that, and some don't. And I found that amazing, and I didn't know that until some of my subscribers or members sent me that information. And now Mrs. Steve's phone doesn't do that. Mine does.
Mine's not special.
And so I went in there and looked at it, and I think it's still, even when the backlight's off, that it will still record from some of the information I read, those steps and things. I'm going to look some more into that. But I found it amazing that the phone comes on in this position, and then when you turn it upside down, it turns off. When you turn it right side up, it comes on. Absolutely amazing. Never knew that about them. But it's something about the power that if you're talking on the phone, it's right side up. That that way, when you're walking, have it in hand, it saves the battery. But I appreciate everyone that sent me that information. Never knew that about my phone.
All right. And Janae, thank you so much.
Yes, appreciate it. Thank you for all this. And we thank you. Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. And oh my gosh. I can't even get to the questions for chasing this down. All right. And
did you catch Alex Freudian slip? He said, when Maggie told me to leave. then quickly changed it. I think they were having an argument. That falls. I missed that. I didn't catch that. But that's even more part of what Chris and I have been working on. And when we're looking at this and trying to decide the exact conversation, but I do believe that there was, of course, there was some type of confrontation down there. Homicides of this nature just doesn't occur unless it's the result of something major, and there has to be some type of catalyst, and I believe it was part of that addiction.
And Aaron.
Thank you for pronouncing Alec correctly and the whole fake pawpaw name switch. She convict him alone. Should yes, he has been using pawpaw quite a bit, but that's part of him being a trained attorney, applying the lessons learned in thousands of hours of court dealing with juries.
All right. So let me see if I can get back to some questions. Let's see here. Bonita, what about the 904 backlight being shut off according to the defense witness expert?
Well, my test, I saw where mine come on, and I don't know. I have to check. I have to look back at my videos and did that backlight go back off. It can time out, but you can change that orientation just by a simple phone call. Never realized it until I did that, and I set it up, ran it, did 3 trials on it. Test came back absolutely 3 times. Made that phone move 4 or 5 inches. And I could, knowing that I can make that phone move 4 or 5 inches, I can make that phone do anything by it having I could set it up to flip over, do wherever I wanted to, just by the vibrations, and which I never realized, and I was trying to figure it out, and it came to me, and so like I said, it's just an alternative theory, and I think it's something that we should consider.
All right. And this is from Erna. How can they arrest someone already in custody?
You can charge someone with another crime while they're in custody, and they can have additional charges. But you're right. Once he's in custody, he's in custody.
Okay. And Kimberly, can the prosecutor put Alex back on the stand? I think we've already done that, haven't we?
Yeah, I don't know. It was about will they?
Okay.
Could he?
Could he? Oh, yeah.
I don't think the prosecutor can get him on there at all unless he voluntarily goes up there.
Okay.
Because they closed.
All right. And Erna, does anyone know what the arrest warrant was for?
Yeah, it could be just additional charges.
Okay. And Deborah, where are the guns?
Man, that's I am so tempted to get in my car and go there. But there's, they have 1,700 acres that could be anywhere. And as Buster, Alex's other son, has testified to, that there's a lot of swamp there. And how many hours of times has prior to his Alex's arrest that he could have gone anywhere in that swamp or to the rivers and managed to get rid of them. And so I believe that there's a lot of water involved in their disappearance.
All right. And Joanna, new member.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate my members. Sunday night, I'm going to be on the road for my members, for all my members, but I may be later that night. I've got to decide because I'm going to be driving all day. I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, or I'll be on the road at 5, and I'll put in a 12 or 14 hour day on the road tomorrow. And I may try to get to some of the, have a members meeting tomorrow night. I'll try.
Okay. And Anne, Mr. Steve, Alex's defense is bringing on another forensic pathologist. Do you think that's to enter more expert testimony that the time of death could have been after 9:02 p.m. when Alex left?
Absolutely, that's what they're going to have to do. And if they can ever prove that, and they'll have to prove it with some type of, and I don't know what it could be, but they will have to put that timeline after 9:02, 9:06, and the further after 9 they can, the better off for Alex. Is it possible? You can hire these people to testify and bring these experts in, and I'll have to hear the evidence. But I've been surprised before, but it would take some type of tremendous piece of evidence to convince me that it was after 9:02. I can't even imagine what it would be, but we'll see what they're going to testify to.
Okay, and Rockin' question. Alex said he was triggered by police, but he is still lying. He told 911 that he checked the bodies before he called.
Yes, the moment he called, if this scenario that I presented tonight is correct, the moment he called 911 is the first lie that I've just found, and I found them, the victims of a homicide, and everything from that moment on is a constant lie supporting another lie, and which is what liars do. One lie will not stand alone. There has to be a pyramid of lies supporting each other, and that's what he's done.
All right. And Cynthia, so he was driving down the road with blood all on him to get rid of the phone. Do you think he hosed off the blood at the kennels beforehand?
Yes, I think that just as soon as when he's running around right after the homicides, I believe he went and got the water hose and immediately washed down from head to toe, and gathered the phone, and immediately went and disposed of it. And then because the golf cart wasn't, as far as I know, we don't have any testimony or anything from SLED saying the golf cart was ever processed. And so, will it be processed at some point? I hope so. It's still somewhere, and I'm hoping they're able to process it, or will process it.
Okay.
Not that they're doing good in this trial, but hopefully they'll go back and process it.
Yeah. All right. And Davey, did Ellie check the golf cart for blood?
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Not that we know of, and for whatever reason, but Alex made a big deal about the golf cart being moved. That wasn't where he parked it, and so we'll see what is he prepping that for that. There was some staging or something going on in addition to him. I don't know.
Okay. And Tanya, question. Do you think that law enforcement were sympathetic to him and dropped the ball on what was searched / recovered by SLED?
Yeah. From his stand, if you believe him, which he may, absolutely, he says that SLED's corrupt, and is that part of his lie to make them the bad guy, but they're actually the best of friends. And I can tell you here in the South, when there's wild game feeds, big bird hunts, you have this influential network of almost exactly what has always been heard about the good old boys. And they have these things, and there is attorneys, representatives, senators, judges that gather these things, and law enforcement. And I have no doubt that there was a large part of every law enforcement agency in the state at some point had been on his property. And were there some of them that may have done that? Possible. But it happens, and I see it. And so it's not uncommon.
Okay. And Susan, do you think this was planned or a burst of anger on his part?
I think a lot of the detox, and when he was in his body and during that addiction, and the reactions he was having, and the need to fulfill that addiction, that the point that he left his phone home land that we're going to play, and I'll do anything. And he left his phone and took his shotgun. I think that's the point, that his desire and his need to fulfill that addiction is the biggest or the greatest part that led to those final moments.
Okay. And so for Scribbles, do y'all think he will be convicted for the murders?
I believe there'll be a hung jury. I think it's because we have to look at the jury doesn't have, it's easy for us to Monday morning quarterback and say anyone's guilty or innocent. And because we're seeing things that jury doesn't have any access to. And the jury, when they're seated, each of them answers those questions. They know nothing about the history of this family. They're supposed to be non-biased, non-partial, and they know very little about anything that's in the news. And they've supposed to maintain that throughout the trial and evaluate only the findings of innocent or guilt on what they've heard during those hours of court. And if I was under those circumstances, not knowing certain details, I could see where it could be a hung jury.
All right. And Love, Tina, question. I think the speeding has some meaning behind it. What do you think about it?
I think any man that has blue lights in his vehicle and a badge that isn't supposed to have blue lights in his vehicle and a badge will speed. And now, did he have additional reasons for that on that particular night? Yes. I think at one point he had to separate and get as much distance between him and that crime scene as fast as possible. And I think that might have led to it. But I think he always had that he drove above the speed limit regardless. But I think he had additional incentives that night.
Maybe I need blue lights.
No, you don't.
No. Okay. And Kimberly, why didn't they test that scratch on his forehead? It was there when he talked to law enforcement. It was a small, fresh wound.
I missed that part. I'll have to go look at that.
Okay. He's got homework. And Panthers rule. Could it be possible that Alex was still weak from detox and the shotgun blast knocked him back a bit and made the trajectory look that way from where the defense is saying?
There is that possibility that during that detox, that even as he admitted that he's unsteady, he has those happy legs, and that certain physical things occur. Could that have played a part in it? Absolutely. And that may be the reason that I believe that fatal shot on Paul was done from such a position as the offender being on his back, firing at that acute angle of 135 degrees.
Okay. And Gail, do you think the jury is scared to convict him since his family is in the courtroom and sees who they are and they may be scared of them?
You know, I hope that's never the case. Is it possible that sometimes that may occur? Yes, but I'm hoping that's never the case. And if, because our whole Constitution is based upon um, uh, that our court systems protect us and serves the law of the land. And I hope it never gets to the point. Has it ever occurred? Absolutely. But I hope it doesn't occur in this case.
Okay. And Grumpy Cat, question. Hi, Steve. In court, the defense used a stopwatch and timed 20 seconds, and the state did nothing to refute it. Your thoughts?
Well, yeah, it's 20 seconds. And, you know, did it serve its purpose? You know, I don't know. But it didn't really change anything the way I was thinking about it. No, not to me.
Okay. And CCF, in court, they haven't really picked up on him saying he was withdrawing at the time, have they? Have I missed that? It seems crazy.
The prosecution, when they were talking about about why Alex stayed at the motel room the previous day during the ball game while Maggie was at the ball game, and he was at the room detoxing, and I thought at that moment they were going, because the prosecution did say that, well, you were detoxing, and he said, yes, I was. And I thought he was going to carry it on further. Now, will he carry it on further with the in the closing? Probably. I'm hoping he does, because like I said, I think that plays a large part in the motive now. I absolutely do.
Okay. And Jenny G.A., did Steve say how he thought he hosed off, and did he hose down the golf cart?
I think he did hose off. Absolutely. I believe it was necessary, and I think he did. And I think that he did a quick wash down of everything on the, I don't know how much water pressure there was, but I do believe that he hosed down certain things there rather quickly, because he says he got out of there, and I honestly think he did.
And CJK, I've read about this case since the death, but I've not followed the trial, just what I've watched here and on another channel. What is the key forensic evidences against him?
They don't have any clothing, they don't have DNA, and they don't have the guns. And that's how come without that video, the video of Paul's that Paul made in those few moments prior to his death is the biggest reason that we're here today. That's my opinion. That without that video, Alex wouldn't be on trial.
All right, bear with me, looking for something here. All right, thank you so much, Sabrina.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate your super sticker.
We
awesome.
Appreciate it. All right. All right, and that's gone. Okay. And CJK, Steve at True Crime Web. How come jurors can't take notes?
That is an oddity on this case. Some jurors can in some states and things, but evidently it's left to the discretion of the courts. And on this, because I've known of where jurors are issued notepads. So I guess it's up to each and every court, at least in that state.
All right. And Charlene at Mr. Steve, where are you heading in the Midwest? I'm in Indiana near Delphi.
I've got 3 meetings. I've got 2 meetings in South Indiana. I got one in Indianapolis, and I haven't decided if I'm going to spend the night in Delphi or not, but there's a possibility. Or Mrs. Steve wants me to stop somewhere after about 12 hours, 14
At
hours.
least.
So wherever 12 or 14 hours is after tomorrow is where I'll stop. And it may be near Delphi.
All right. And just us. Hi. I think it's supposed to be Mr. Steve. Little Detective Paul found thousands of pills in feed shed just then, and Mags would have taken them away, not planned.
And that's as good a theory as any, is that
Sure
when
is.
he went down there and he saw that they had those and he was wanting them, and he's in the middle of detox, and he doesn't want, and is that the final straw? But he wouldn't have known they found it, and so leaving the phone at the house and having a firearm or having 2 firearms down there shows some type of premeditation, in my opinion.
All right. And Gail, how long do you think it will take a juror to write a book?
They'll be well involved into it in the first 6 months. I have no doubt. I mean, there's already, what is it? Netflix or someone has these already have a documentary on it.
Mm-hmm. And Grumpy Cat, question. Hi, Steve. Can you comment on Creighton Waters' cross with Alex, and was it effective?
On a scale of 10 being the highest, yeah, I give him a 7 or 8. And because he had his moments, but then again, he had, but everybody, he did a far greater job than I could have. But I'm not a trained prosecutor. I'm sure that they'll go back and look at it. And there were probably some times that he could have pressed on certain issues better, but no, I think it is what it is. We're going to see where it goes.
And Millie, if any new bombshell evidence came out between now and closing arguments, could it still be presented to the jury?
I don't know. I doubt it. But I don't believe so. I mean, I don't know. That'd be up for some attorneys out there.
All right. And Tanya, Steve, did you ever do the test to see if a pressure washer was used?
I don't know if there was any evidence that there was a pressure washer that was used. But no, I did not.
Okay. And Tammy, could the guns be buried with his father? That's creepy.
Yeah. That is. No, I can't imagine that being the case. To even get them there would be the risk factor of an offender doing that is so high of being discovered. I can't see that occurring.
Okay. And Gail, question, can Alex's lawyers get in trouble for him having contraband?
Only if they brought the contraband.
Okay. All right. And Michelle, question, did AM's sister get in trouble for trying to give him a book in court?
And it didn't come up. I don't see it.
Oh, well, why isn't it coming up? There we go. Did AM's sister get in trouble for trying to give him a book in court? I heard it was considered contraband.
I don't know how much trouble and what the any of the bailiffs would have done, but they would have checked and notified the court, and they would correct those issues.
Okay. And Jeff, Steve, can you help me understand what a solicitor badge is and how AM thought it was important to flash? I've never heard of that badge in my parts.
I'm the same. I had several people send me emails. I was going to research it, and they sent me emails, said that a solicitor in South Carolina is the same as an elected district attorney in my part of the woods. And so knowing that's a district attorney, and district attorneys, of course, are officers of the court. And so that's all it is that he's an officer of the court on the prosecution side. And you know, to him, I take it was something that he could use as a power play.
And he did.
Mm-hmm.
All righty. And Courtney at True Crime Web, why do you think that AM never got rid of Paul's phone like he did Maggie's?
I don't know. Was it something that he just checked and couldn't get into and realized that the phone was secured, and he just checked it right quick, and making sure it, you know, that wasn't or checking first, because he checked and saw that it was, he just verifying that it was Paul's phone and not Maggie's phone. Or, I mean, there's several different reasons why he might have looked at that phone, but I really do believe that he was fearful that Maggie's phone was in hand, and that he was checking Paul's pocket to see if his phone was out or in. And if it's in his pocket, then of course he can't be dialing 911. Whereas if Maggie's phone is out and in hand, she could have possibly been hitting panic button, 911, fast dial, whatever. And that's how come I believe that he had to separate that phone from the crime scene.
All right. Now that's all I had marked.
All right.
And it's 11 after.
Okay.
Do you want to do more, or I know you said you wanted to cut it short because you're leaving so early.
Yeah, we appreciate everybody being here tonight. I'm going to be leaving in just a few hours. I've got, like I said, a long day tomorrow. I've got to get up into Indiana, handle several meetings in Indiana tomorrow regarding cold cases. And then I'm going to be going to Iowa, reference the Evansdale homicides of Lyric and Elizabeth. And so I'll be looking at that cold case most of the week. And then I'll be coming back home. But I appreciate everybody being here. If you like the channel, please subscribe, support us. We appreciate it. I appreciate y'all just viewing it and being a part of chat, being respectful. It means a lot to us. And but I look forward to if I can have a members meeting tomorrow night, I'm going to try to get up and do that. But if not, it will be sometime on the road next week. I'll be trying to do some lives. It's just however we can get everything worked out. But we want to thank everybody for being here tonight. All the donations means a lot to us and allows us to do things that we couldn't do without you. But we appreciate it. Don't forget to share, subscribe, like, and I'll see y'all in a few days.
Thank you, mods. Couldn't do it without you. Love you.